But anyway, so Percy Jackson episode 6. We obviously left Percy and the gang last week after dealing with Ares.
We did.
Getting in the back of a van on their way to Vegas, where they would be told they'd be there by morning.
Mm-hmm.
And they would find Hermes so that he could sneak them in the back door of hell.
Yes.
And that's where we joined them, still in the back of the van, trying to work out how far away they were from Vegas.
Yeah.
What I found really cool, and I don't know if I've kind of misunderstood it because of the way it's put forward or what. So it seemed like she was using a crystal to reflect the light to create a rainbow so that they could pray to the goddess of rainbow so they could use it to communicate. And I don't know if that was Annabeth being like really smart or if that's like a known thing that they do.
I have a feeling it's like maybe a known way of being able to communicate.
But like proper Boy Scouts sort of communication. It's like, if you're ever in a pinch, this is a good idea.
Yeah, you can make an offering and like you get like a one call sort of situation.
It did crack me up though that she's going, "Oh, I'm getting a signal," and what she means is, "I'm creating a rainbow." It's really funny to me.
Yeah, she's like, "I'm getting the right angle," is what she really means. I thought it was a really clever way though of doing it, and
yeah, I like the visuals of it.
Yeah, the visuals was cool. The little convo they had with I'm forgetting his name now. Sam?
Luke.
Obviously wanting to warn the camp of what was coming, but actually not realizing that the camp already knows there's war coming and they're very much getting prepared for it.
It's also really interesting, bearing in mind, like, the gods don't come across the best throughout the show, I feel.
No.
And so, like, the idea that, like, war's breaking out and just all of a sudden all these kids that have basically been abandoned by their godparents are, like, picking sides in this war.
Yeah.
Like, we saw the camp. They are young.
Yeah, and it's like
what do you mean? You should be hiding.
they clearly, you know where it's going. It's by someone going, "Oh, it's not. We're not.
This is like
isn't
the
our
worst
fight."
version of my dad can kick your dad's ass.
It probably is. 100% is. It's like, oh, well, my dad can't be in the wrong, so clearly this is the right side to be on. And other people are going, what do you mean? So yeah, it's just kids picking sides based on their parents, which is like just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, big time. And Percy was hoping to obviously use Luke for a bit of information on his father, which Annabeth was very quick to shut down when she realised what Percy was about to say.
It felt like,
no, you don't ask Luke these questions.
Yeah, she immediately just shut it off, and it felt almost like, you know, when you go, "Oh, I'm losing signal back," and you immediately hang up. It's kind of how it felt. But yeah, she's like, "No, we don't ask Luke about his dad."
Yeah. And then we arrive at the Lotus Casino.
Yeah, Grover breaks all the animals out, and it's like, "Oh, they'll be fine." And they're like, "What about the people though? There's a bear loose in Vegas," and he's like,
"It was really funny." Just like that like really quick shot of like all the animals just stopping traffic. Really funny to me.
And Grover's like, "Oh, they'll be fine," and he means the animals.
You don't give a fuck about the people.
Yeah, didn't even think about how people would react.
What I will say is, I was obviously very excited for this because I've made no secret that I enjoyed the original Percy Jackson Lightning Thief film, and I did enjoy the Vegas scene in that. And while it is very, very different in this,
yeah, it is.
I still really like it.
Yeah, I did enjoy how they went about it.
Yeah, it's a different vibe, don't get me wrong, but it's still really cool and gives the exact same kind of effect. But it just makes the kids seem more responsible because it's like they're not like accidentally fucking up and then getting punished for it. It's like they were trying really hard. They knew, okay, don't eat anything, don't drink anything, we'll be fine. And they just miscalculated what was happening.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that characterization a little bit more. They're not idiot teenagers who weren't thinking. They were intelligent children who weren't expecting something.
Yeah. And it also kind of, almost in a way, feels a bit more realistic to how a casino could be being run. And like obviously in the films we talked about, like, it's an absolute acid trip sort of thing goes on. I think that would have felt out of place if they'd gone that extreme. Obviously we're dealing with gods and mythical creatures and stuff, and like This isn't, but they're still in this show. They've kept like the real world has actually felt very much modern day
Yeah,
realistic. So it's like the idea that a casino, the ordinary people that go in there lose track of time. As if everyone's been to a casino, very easy to lose track of time in a casino.
R- Rick Royden is a fucking genius because he really did go. Greek mythology still lives and works in today's culture if you just tweak it slightly.
Yeah,
And like a casino is a perfect place to talk about the Odyssea or whatever it is. Because like
yeah,
even like the way like the lotus flower is ingested, it's like oh no, they pump it into the vents. It's a very well known secret that in Las Vegas there are no windows, so you can't see what time of day it is,
yeah. There's no
and they
clocks.
pump oxygen
Mm.
into the floor to keep you awake because there's an abundance of oxygen which keeps you feeling alert and awake.
Yeah, it's wild how like it correlates so well. And
Exactly.
also, obviously they were going into it, and I'm like, we're prepared for them to forget. We know something's going to happen here where they
Yeah.
forget what's going on. So I'm kind of waiting for them to mess up and eat something, and then it kind of clicked. I was like, what if well, my thought was it's going to be in all the food. It's not lotus flowers. It's just like if they eat anything, then it gets them. And then it started to click. I was like, hang on, no, they're going to start forgetting because it's just like being pumped
An
in the air, or there's
aura kind of
something
thing.
going
Yeah.
on. Yeah. Um, I I enjoyed how Grover he ended up lost in the metaverse.
Yeah.
Which feels like such a trippy thing to say for this, but
It's so interesting because, like, and obviously, like I said, I've never read the books. This is all coming from my knowledge of film.
mm,
Grover was very much like the cool sidekick,
yeah,
and they made him a bit of a badass. He's like, oh yeah, he's half animal. He's like, he kicks ass. And in this, he's more of like a much more passive, but very helpful.
mm,
But they've also added a bit more to him. Again, not necessarily from the books. I'm not saying they're very, but from what I already knew of Grover,
yeah,
with the story of Pan and like
yeah,
clearly he knows this gentleman that he's tried to. He's like I found Ferdinand, and then it's interesting because both him and the older guy whose name I've forgotten felt like they'd nearly found Pan. So
yeah,
I wonder, does the lotus flower trick you into making you feel like you're achieving what you want to achieve? Which is why Annabeth and Percy, yes, they lost time still,
mm,
but they were because they were focused on what they were trying to achieve.
yes,
They felt like they were progressing it, which is what kept them there for longer. Whereas Grover got distracted by Pan, so then the lotus flower snatched onto that and was like, "Yes, we're going to feed that. That's a bigger desire for you." Because
yeah,
from his background, he'd care more about the ability to find Pan than
hmm.
complete this quest necessarily.
I,
That'd be a bigger
I,
draw for him.
yeah, I'd say my takeaway was kind of like that. That because he has this underlying kind of quest of his own to find Pan and like a purpose, that is what his mind got fixated on, and what the lotus kind of flower um elevated,
Yeah.
but
Well, I
also
guess
that
it kind of
um,
it feeds into the metaphor of Vegas, doesn't it? Because Vegas is just
well,
a
yeah,
big dopamine hit.
yeah,
And that's what the Lotus Flower is doing. It's going, oh, what
yeah,
part of what are you thinking about right now that's giving you all this dopamine? Right, we're just gonna feed that. We're gonna make you focus on that. Chase
yeah,
that dopamine. Chase that dopamine. It's why I don't gamble.
yeah,
Like I've always been like a no. Because while I don't think I'd have any problems, gambling's for mugs has always been my opinion. But I'm also keenly aware that all it takes is me thinking I'm above a gambling addiction and winning
yeah.
one time, and then I'm like, oh, let me chase that high. Let me check. No, you know what? I would chase the high of getting 3 kills in CS2 and never ever live up to it again and not spend a penny. Thanks. I would
uh,
chase that high.
but yeah, and then obviously because Grover's on his own, it affects him more. We find that out
Yeah,
later. But the other two find Hermes, played by
Lin-Manuel Miranda.
yeah. I actually didn't hate that as like
I
the
I I
casting.
I don't I don't get the people who really hate him. I think it's like a theatre music thing that why people have their issues with him.
Maybe.
Everything I've ever seen him in, I really like him.
Yeah, he's come across great. I thought he played this part well.
He
Um,
gave Hermes vibes, big style.
yeah. And also like can also see him being the sort of person that owns a casino.
Yeah.
So,
Now, what's really interesting, so obviously you had the bit of back and forth there. Annabeth
mhm.
storms off. I did notice as she got up, I'm not sure if you clocked, she did pull her cap out,
Oh, I didn't clock that.
which is a really good bit of foreshadowing that she put her
Yeah.
cap on to steal his keys. But I also love that Hermes knew she stole his keys and let her.
Yeah.
There seems to be this recurring theme with the gods that they won't help you, but if you do something that's smart, they're not going to get in your way.
Yeah, and if it's something that they kind of respect you for doing in a sort of way, they'll, like, allow you to get away
Do you
with
know what
it.
it is? They will all they want is plausible deniability.
Yeah.
He can go, well, she picked my pocket. What can I do? How am I supposed to know?
Yeah, it's they don't wanna get accused of helping them, but they're
Exactly.
kinda happy for them to play these stories to play out and see what comes of it, 'cause they're gods, they've lived for so many years that they're just like, "Well, need to have a bit of fun essentially and let these things play out nowadays." But
Um,
yeah, I liked how there was just the note there for them because he knew that they'd stolen the keys.
um, I did enjoy the scene of them trying to work out how to drive the cab, and like this
It
really intense like
stressed me
chase,
out so
this like really
much.
intense like chase music while he's like creeping along, juddering, just trying to get a taxi to move. It's so funny.
The bit when he like finally gets the hang of it and they're like, "Oh shit, okay, this is easy." I'm like, "There you go, easy out, you'll be fine." Then he suddenly hits the wall, and I'm like, "For fuck's sake!" And the panic overcompensation, just that moment started stressing me out because I was like, "You're panicking. Why are you just drive straight? It's not that
We've all been
hard."
there. We all remember, or at least us young people do, remember our first driving lesson.
Oh
And you
mate, I
remember that
smashed my
panic.
first lesson though.
You no, but you do remember that panic like the first time they're like, okay, now put the accelerator down. And you're like, what do you mean? We're going really fast. And you're like creeping along in
Oh,
first.
see, my issue on my first lesson was I was on a country lane and I was too near the grass veg. He's like, "Can you keep out of the shit? I don't want to have to wash my car again." And I was like, which is then also him scraping the wall. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
You don't have that depth perception of like how
Yeah.
wide your car is and stuff. But it was just kids
It's
trying
it's
to drive
so
a taxi.
relatable.
Yeah, but
Like
also
you can
very
imagine
stressful.
that's do you know what it really gave? It gave the impression that they got three kids who genuinely didn't know how to drive, and they went, we are not going to get in your way for this, kids. We're just going to run the
Yeah,
camera. You try and get the taxi out of here.
they probably just went, "That's the accelerator. There's the brake." They probably put a limiter on it, and then they were just like, "Right, off you go."
Can we clear the set, please, and have fire extinguishers ready
Yeah.
and go? Yeah.
Have an ambulance ready.
Um, what I will say is very interesting. So over the course of the film, which again is my only point of
Mm,
reference, don't get angry at me, book people. Um, they don't like really interact with many other gods.
mhm.
What they're looking for is they're looking for these little marbles the entire time
Right.
because the plan is always get into hell, get the lightning bolt, and then you're going to use these marbles to escape.
Yep.
So I have been wondering this entire time, where the fuck are these marbles?
Right. Okay.
And of course, we've now just got them.
Yeah.
The big difference in Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, to my memory,
Mhm.
they only collect three.
Okay.
There was four.
There was.
I don't know if that's a big change. I don't
What if
know
that's accurate
if,
to the books?
yeah, or what, but that was exciting for me. I was like, oh, the
Oh yeah.
marbles weren't a completely made up bullshit thing. They've just changed fundamentally what
How
the
they got
point
them.
of the quest
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
I thought it was the so that transition when they pull out their garage and you think they're about to get hit, and then they're on the beach. Very good. Then obviously Percy goes into the water, and his dad's couldn't wait around forever. Understandable. But I enjoyed his little plea. Well, it's not a plea, but like she was like, "Yeah, your quest is done. Go home. Like this is over. There's no time." And he's like, No, I'm not just gonna walk away from this. What? Like just because war is starting doesn't mean this is over." And then
It's not over till I say it's over.
once again, obviously, I know this being in the water isn't a god. It's obviously some helper of
Yeah.
again, kind of what we saw with the Golden Throne, saw that persistence in them and was like, okay, we'll help them. We like these they're proving that they're different and trying to do
Yeah.
this their way. So then was willing to help them. as soon as it was 4 marbles were handed, I was like, one of them is for the mum.
Yeah. It's really interesting because this is always the thing that's like, why would these kids be in this situation? Like, that's never going to happen. It's like, well,
Mm.
no, that's the whole point. That's why they are the chosen one. Yes, Percy is like, yeah, we've already heard that like the big three's kids are more powerful, which is fine.
Yeah.
But he's not inherently more special than the other demigods. It's just he's never known about any of this. He got thrust into it. His only real goal is, no, I'm going to go save my mum.
Yeah.
So they've been like, no, go home. And he's like, I wasn't doing this fucking quest for you gods. I just want my mother back. I'm not turning around now.
Yeah.
Help me or don't. I'm not going back to Camp Half-Blood.
Yeah, it's that. If it was any other kid, they probably would have done because they would have been around for a while. And this is just like, they're all that. Like the adults have told him to go do this quest. Now the adults are saying go home. Whereas Percy's like, I don't know any of you. I just want my mum back. My dad was supposed to help me. Like,
Yeah. Well, it's like what, like Annabeth's entire motivation at the very beginning of the show was, I want to do a quest.
yeah.
Without Percy being there for them to rub off on each other over the course of this quest,
Mm-hmm.
she would have got to that point and been told to go home, and she'd be
Yep.
like, "Okay, cool, I completed my quest."
Yeah.
Now,
So,
at this point, Annabeth probably wouldn't. She'd fight and continue.
well, yeah.
But the Annabeth we saw in episode 1, 2, and 3 would have.
Hmm.
So it's been really fun watching these characters progress. I don't know how many episodes we're supposed to get here.
I don't know.
Percy Jackson and the Olympians season
Something I will
1.
also
How
say
many
though,
episodes?
the
8
VFX.
episodes.
Oh,
We've
so
only got
it's 2
2
more.
more episodes.
The VFX for that underwater scene at the end was very well done.
Better than
Considering,
Aquaman.
yeah. Well, no, never saw it. But like considering this TV show, I would say they've been very smart. Obviously, they can get away with it being murky, dark water. It was nighttime. They were very clever about, I think, that purposeful things they've picked to help them with these VFX shots to sell them.
But I'm always going to give credit for the directors and the production people for thinking when they're filming the actual stuff to make life easier for the VFX guys.
Yes.
Like you've got to give props for that. Like, well done for thinking.
Well, yeah, and it's thinking about how to best sell this thing that you want to achieve, and you know it's going to need VFX. So it's like, what can I do on my end to best get the best result?
Yeah,
in the easiest way. So,
absolutely.
But yeah, another great episode. And if we've only got 2 more, I'm very intrigued to see what point we end on.
Yeah, I mean, I assume the entire time they'd finish the first book and it'd be a book a season, but maybe they don't.
I have a feeling they're gonna. It's either gonna end with them. I reckon next episode they get into hell, and I think the last episode maybe is them escaping,
Maybe.
and that's where it ends. And it's like, then it's like, now we've got to deal with the what do we do next sort of situation.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see where they decide to break it up. It'd be very, very interesting decision to not break it up a season a book. I don't know like what the overlap is story-wise between each books. Maybe like a little bit later on it would make sense to do it that way. Like if the books overlap slightly.
Yeah, but this is where if we'd read the books, we'd know what was coming maybe, but
then we'd know what was coming.
True.
We're getting to experience this as its own thing.
This is true.
We
need to find someone that knows if this is like at the end of this, if it's ended at the end of the first book, and then we can just go read the first book and then wait.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the only reason I haven't caught up on my Invincible comic yet. I don't want to read ahead.
Yeah. Not that the fact that you've got like a stack this big. Yeah, I see it. All the viewers see it as well. It's only got bigger. It's never gone down.
That's a lie. It went down like twice.